He has already arrived, but most people still do not perceive his spirit. And, quietly, he is among us without the world being bothered by his presence. I want you to know that nothing that has happened is by chance. The history of humanity has a timeline and is under God's control. This is guaranteed by the Bible, which records all the prophetic events that have already occurred, are occurring at this moment, and will occur much sooner than one can imagine. Within this timeline, God's Word mentions the prophecy of the emergence of two beasts that will mark the beginning of the end times. The first of them, which will arise from the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns, is the Antichrist. The second beast, which will appear on the land and lead people to worship the first one, deceiving them with miraculous signs, will be the false prophet. I don't know if you know, but the book of Revelation was written by the Apostle John when he was detained on the island of Patmos, in Greece. God granted him the vision of the things that would happen in the last years before the return of Christ and the end of times. The language used by the Lord in this prophetic book was symbolic language. This means that instead of conveying a message directly and literally, the Lord chose to reveal his visions through representations. It is precisely for this reason that there are various interpretations about who and how the Antichrist will be. In this video, I will present the main theories and interpretations that different schools of thought and even religions have about the Antichrist and how he will act in the events that will occur before the final judgment. Before we proceed, I invite you to subscribe to the Mysteries of the Bible channel, because here we help you understand the Bible in a simple and practical way. Therefore, click on subscribe, activate the bell, and choose the All option to receive the next video directly on your cell phone. Ultimately, who will the Antichrist be? Is he really among us already? Stay with me because now we will explore the various theories developed about this being who simultaneously causes fear and great curiosity in people. First of all, I want to make it clear that I will only present these theories. At the end of the video, I will discuss who I believe this being is, where I think he will come from, and what his role is in everything we have witnessed negatively in current days. Alright, so let's go. The first theory, the magnate. Those who support this theory believe that the Antichrist will emerge as an extremely wealthy man who will use a large part of his fortune to manipulate and control global systems and governments. To understand the reasons that support this idea, let's explore some points from Revelation chapter 13. This chapter addresses the emergence of the Antichrist coming out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. It turns out that these symbols, the horns and heads, have been interpreted since ancient times as representations of different nations or power structures, and he could control all these structures. Additionally, verses 4 to 8 of Revelation 13 show that the beast gains authority over all tribes, peoples, languages, and nations, and it would be people's admiration for so much power that would lead them to worship and serve the Antichrist. This theory suggests that the Antichrist would have so much money that he could influence people's opinions, control the media, and manipulate religious and political leaders. It would be precisely all this influence and economic power that would allow the second beast, the false prophet, to force all people to receive a mark without which they could not buy or sell. In other words, by occupying a key position in the international economy and exerting influence over global policies, the magnate could impose his own economic policies aligned with an apocalyptic agenda without difficulties. This theory can explain a common aspect nowadays. When someone accumulates a great fortune, this person often becomes a media figure and starts to exert influence over society. Some examples include people like Mark Zuckerberg, owner of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, as well as Elon Musk, owner of Tesla, among many others. There is also Donald Trump, former president of the United States, who is a magnate, and other examples like Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, and Jeff Bezos from Amazon. Do you know what all these men have in common? They are billionaires, successful, powerful, and influential worldwide. All of them have been accused at some point of being behind supposed apocalyptic plans, such as implanting microchips in people, using their social media platforms to control and manipulate the masses, and supposed connections with the global elite, Freemasonry, and even Satanism, fueling the idea that they want to dominate the world through their companies and space projects. These are just a few examples of magnates who have been accused of being the Antichrist. However, it is important to make it clear that there is no concrete or biblical evidence to prove these accusations. They are based on personal or distorted interpretations of the prophecies of Revelation. Therefore, it is essential to be very careful and discerning when dealing with these discourses, as they can generate more confusion, fear, and hatred in people. The second theory, the being from another world. There is also a theory that suggests the Antichrist will be a being from another planet or dimension. This idea is based on the interpretation that the beast will emerge from the sea, which can be interpreted as a dimensional portal from where the Antichrist will come. It is believed that this being will be endowed with supernatural powers, such as telepathy, telekinesis, and the ability to perform miracles that will deceive humanity. The idea that the Antichrist could be an extraterrestrial or interdimensional being is a highly speculative interpretation and does not have a solid basis in the Bible. It relies mainly on symbolic interpretations and the belief that beings from other worlds or dimensions have influence over the events on Earth. He has already arrived, but most people still do not perceive his spirit. And, quietly, he is among us without the world being bothered by his presence. I want you to know that nothing that has happened is by chance. The history of humanity has a timeline and is under God's control. This is guaranteed by the Bible, which records all the prophetic events that have already occurred, are occurring at this moment, and will occur much sooner than one can imagine. Within this timeline, God's Word mentions the prophecy of the emergence of two beasts that will mark the beginning of the end times. The first of them, which will arise from the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns, is the Antichrist. The second beast, which will appear on the land and lead people to worship the first one, deceiving them with miraculous signs, will be the false prophet. Punctuation in English. However, it is important to remember that the Bible does not make direct mention of extraterrestrial or interdimensional beings in relation to the Antichrist. The third theory, a charismatic political leader. Another theory suggests that the Antichrist will be a charismatic political leader who will arise amidst global crises and international conflicts. He will be able to unite nations under a single leadership and will promise solutions to world problems such as conflicts, hunger, and inequality. His persuasive ability and charisma will make him very popular among the masses, leading people to follow and worship him as a savior. This theory is based on the idea that the Antichrist will be a world leader who will use politics as a means to achieve global power. It suggests that he will arise at a time of crisis and instability, offering seemingly beneficial solutions to the world's problems. However, over time, his true malevolent nature will be revealed, and he will begin to impose his dominion over the nations. This interpretation aligns more with the traditional view of the Antichrist as a powerful and deceitful political leader. It is based on biblical passages that describe the Antichrist as someone who will have authority over many nations and who will deceive people with his deceitful speeches. The fourth theory, a false religious leader. Another theory suggests that the Antichrist will be a false religious leader who will present himself as a Messiah or spiritual savior. He will gain followers through distorted teachings of faith and will perform false miracles to deceive people. This theory is based on the idea that the Antichrist will be a religious figure who will usurp true faith and lead people into spiritual error. This interpretation is in line with biblical passages that mention a false prophet who will work alongside the Antichrist to deceive people and lead them to worship him. This theory emphasizes the spiritual dimension of the Antichrist and his ability to deceive people through religion. The fifth theory, a global control system. There is also a theory that argues the Antichrist will not be a specific person, but rather a global control system that will encompass all areas of human life, including politics, economy, religion, and technology. This control system will be used to manipulate and oppress humanity, leading people to accept its authority and worship it as a god. This interpretation is based on the idea that the Antichrist will not be an individual figure, but a manifestation of evil that will spread throughout the world. It suggests that this global control system will be gradually established through technological advancements and political changes, and that people will be gradually subdued by it. These are some of the main theories and interpretations about who or what the Antichrist is. It is important to note that interpretations vary widely among different religious groups and Bible scholars, and there is no universal consensus on the identity or nature of the Antichrist. However, it is important to approach these theories with a sense of discernment and skepticism, as many of them are based on personal and speculative interpretations of the Scriptures. The Bible does not provide a detailed description of the Antichrist that allows for definitive identification, and interpretations may be influenced by individual beliefs and biases. In the end, Understanding the Antichrist is a matter of faith and personal interpretation, and opinions may vary widely. It is important to maintain a critical spirit and seek a balanced understanding of the Scriptures when exploring this topic. Today, we will talk about the day in the Bible when something terrible emerged from the deepest hole in the world. The Bible recounts a moment when the depths of the abyss spewed into this world. The Bible speaks of a time when the spiritual world, which many in this world deny exists, will be cast here on earth. The Bible tells of a time when a star fallen from the heavens holds the key to the abyss, unlocking the deep darkness and releasing entities from the spiritual world upon the whole world. The Bible describes a moment when the very atmosphere of the earth will change, and the air will be filled with the smoke of the abyss, darkening the sun and the winds, indicating the beginning of a period of tribulation. The Bible speaks of a time when locusts unlike any ever seen before will emerge from the abyss, possessing power similar to that of scorpions on earth to torment those who do not have the seal of God. As we contemplate the biblical passage that speaks of something terrible that emerged from the deepest hole in the world, we end up facing the inevitable direction of the history of the end times. History is not just a series of random events that happen without order or reason. It operates with a defined purpose, much like a meticulously planned story, with a distinct beginning and end. It functions as part of a larger divine narrative, where each event is a piece of a celestial puzzle carefully placed by the Almighty. The events we witness around the world are not spontaneous or chaotic. They follow a deliberate and predetermined path by God. History is indeed advancing. The days are progressing. The clock is ticking, advancing along a predetermined line, shaped by a sequence of events destined to unfold from the dawn of time to its final sunset. Each moment is wrapped in this divine journey written by the hands of the Creator. This movement is not random. It has a beginning and seems to move everyone in a specific direction, to a chosen end. God has placed history on a timeline where every event, every rise and fall, every sunrise and sunset aligns with His calendar. Diving into the 9th chapter of the book of Revelation, we find ourselves immersed in a narrative where something terrible emerged from the deepest hole in the world. This chapter, populated by spiritual beings and cosmic activities, provides a panoramic view of the spiritual world colliding with the earthly realm. This chapter reveals to its readers two frightening legions released to cause chaos: the army of the abyss and the army of the east. It is about the first of these armies that today's video intends to analyze more deeply, the army of the abyss, popularly called among theologians as the bottomless pit. There is much controversy among Bible scholars about Revelation 9:1-12. Some experts argue that this is a description of literal locusts coming out of the bottomless pit, while others argue that what emerges from the pit are the decomposing souls of the unsaved. Still, others argue that this is a description of combat helicopters that John, due to the limitations of his time, could only relate to locusts. Others believe it is an army of demons emerging from the pit. We need to read Revelation 9:1-12 in full to better understand the entire context of the biblical passage. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion, when he strike the man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter. According to what has been read, it is possible to see that John, who received visions of the end times while he was on the island of Patmos, seems to have witnessed something truly extraordinary. According to the Bible, he observed that the entities that emerged from the bottomless pit were not unguided. On the contrary, they seemed to be led by a king. This king was not just a decorative figure but a significant entity, orchestrating the actions and influences of those under his command. The name given to him is Abaddon in Hebrew, but in Greek, he is called Apollyon, and in both languages, his name means destroyer.
Many avid Bible readers may be familiar with the name Apollyon, which is mentioned in several films and other videos here on YouTube. Many have also heard the term Apollyon the Destroyer. Although this name might be familiar, the real entity and the power it wields often remain shrouded in mystery. The fact is, most people associate this entity that John referred to with Satan, identifying it with the title, the Destroyer. However, Apollyon is not synonymous with Satan, and here is why. John's vision in the Bible involves angels blowing trumpets, each announcing a more severe disaster than the previous one, with the fifth, sixth, and seventh trumpets being called the three woes. The narrative of Revelation 9 illustrates the descent of a star that receives the key to the bottomless pit, a place depicted as a detention center for malevolent angels or demonic entities. The pit mentioned by John and seen in Revelation 20:3 is where Satan is prophesied to be imprisoned for 1,000 years. John's description of the star highlights it being referred to by the pronoun he, and the identity of this being, frequently debated, is not specified in the scriptures. Some scholars believe it is Satan who receives the keys, while others believe it is an angel who receives them. Upon receiving the key, this being opens the bottomless pit, releasing locust-like entities led by a figure referred to as Abaddon in Hebrew and Apollyon in Greek, both meaning the destroyer. The difference in the description of this confinement in the bottomless pit contrasts with the image of Satan as a free entity roaming the earth, as mentioned in 1 Peter 5 and other biblical passages. This distinction is crucial as it negates the assumption that Satan and Apollyon are identical. Apollyon seems more plausibly one of the principal angels serving Satan, awaiting liberation to exercise his destructive power. Understanding the identity and confinement of Apollyon prompts reflections on his imminent role and the destruction that will follow when he is released, leading theologians to contemplate the divine narrative embedded in these revelations. Endowed with the power to control spirits, Abaddon also possesses the designated power to destroy. Apollyon the Destroyer leads legions of evil spirits that manifest as locusts with the potency of scorpions. Experts assert that this biblical passage is vital for understanding the entities that inhabit this pit, which is actually a refuge for demons, Satan's angels, and a myriad of spirits under the angel's dominion. Although numerous angels similar to Apollyon likely exist within this pit, the author of the book of Revelations focuses on Apollyon, the angel endowed with destructive abilities over the earth. The use of the term locusts in the Bible does not imply something ordinary. Quite the contrary, the author intends to convey the sensation that there is something common in that pit. Examining the descriptions quickly reveals significant deviations from our common perceptions of locusts. Revelation 9:7-10 reveals them with forms resembling horses prepared for battle, crowned heads, human faces, women's hair, lions' teeth, and iron breastplates. The biblical account also states that their wings would produce the sound of chariots drawn by many horses going to battle, and their tails resembled scorpions. It goes without saying that this image contrasts strongly with the common locusts we know. Common locusts do not have human characteristics and do not have the form of horses, leading most theologians to interpret John's description of the locusts as metaphorical, reflecting much more on their mission and number than their appearance. Traditional locusts are associated with the destruction of vegetation and are usually countless, appearing in thousands or hundreds of thousands. Clearly, these are not ordinary locusts. They avoid plants and attack humans like scorpions, representing a visual depiction of the hordes of demons unleashed on Earth. The metaphorical parallel, therefore, would be the destructive capacity. Only the object of the locust's desire would be distinct. While common locusts quickly tear through vast cornfields, Apollion's locusts would do this to human beings. However, it is important to note that there are other interpretations of who these locusts are. A considerable number of theologians believe that Apollion's locusts are modern military vehicles or warfare technology. Another interpretation of the subject suggests that the locusts symbolize flying war vehicles such as helicopters or drones. John, limited by the language and knowledge of his time, described them in terms he understood, relating them to locusts due to their appearance or destructive capabilities. However, most Bible scholars do not adhere to this interpretation. The Bible Mysteries team believes that these locusts are demons or evil spirits released from the abyss to torment those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads, highlighting the aspects of spiritual warfare in the end times. The important thing is that history is advancing along a timeline with a beginning and an end. God has history on a timeline, and the Bible attests to this reality that we are all moving along a line of prophetic events scheduled by God. The passage of time is inexorably leading us to a day on God's prophetic calendar when something terrible will emerge from the world's abyss. John the Revelator, when speaking about the arrival of Apollyon and his army, never speaks in terms of if or maybe. John always speaks of this event as a certainty, and this is how most scholars read and interpret the scriptures. We are talking about a certainty, and the only thing that is uncertain is the date on which this event will occur. What did you think of the video? Comment below if you believe these locusts of Apollyon are indeed monstrous beings that will decimate part of humanity, or if it is all just symbolism. If you want to learn how to edit videos professionally, click on the pinned comment of this video and watch the editing course that will teach you how to do everything practically and quickly. If you want to know the meaning of the 7 trumpets of Revelation, click on the video appearing here on the end screen of this video. I was surprised by the meaning of one of them. Today we end here. A hug, and see you next time.